Tarvis Prime lay in ruins, its surface scarred by firestorms and orbital bombardments. The once proud cities were nothing more than smoldering skeletons, scorched metal filling the air with the stench of ozone. Supreme Warlord Zalora stood at the edge of the devastation, her obsidian armor gleaming under the fading light of a dying sun. To her, it was a scene she had witnessed countless times. Fear always followed her conquests. Worlds crumbled, civilizations begged for mercy, and survivors trembled at her feet. It was the natural order of things. And yet, among the prisoners kneeling before her, refugees, soldiers, diplomats, all bowed in terror except one, the human. He stood casually among the shackled captives, soot-covered flight jacket torn but still worn with a strange pride. He wasn't trembling, wasn't broken. Instead, there was a spark of amusement in his eyes. Zalora frowned, curiosity flickering where there should have been only disdain. She approached him slowly, each metallic step echoing with menace. "Why are you not afraid, human?" Her voice was sharp, honed by centuries of rule, a tone that had made kings collapse and generals beg. The man tilted his head, as if making sure she was speaking to him. Then, with a nonchalant sigh, he said, "Well, I've had worse Mondays." Her warlords stiffened in outrage. One of them growled, ready to rip him apart, but the human waved his bound hands. "Easy, big guy. I'm not looking to end up as a smear on your resume." His humor was absurd, irreverent, and yet he wore it like armor. Zalora reminded him who she was, ruler of the Zyth Dominion, conqueror of worlds. He only shrugged, pretending to consider kneeling before dismissing it with, "Bad for the spine. I prefer yoga." Her gauntlet flared with violet energy, the room trembling under her wrath. Any other being would have collapsed in terror. The human? He just rubbed the back of his neck and said, "Fear's overrated, don't you think?" That's strange. Gnawing feeling crept into Zalora's chest. Not anger, but curiosity. For the first time in centuries, someone stood before her and refused to bow. "What is your name, human?" "Captain Elias Vance," he said, offering a mock salute. "Pleasure. You are either the bravest or most foolish creature I have ever met." "Why not both?" he smirked. Instead of executing him, as she had done to countless others for less insolence, Zalora hesitated. Against all reason, she ordered, "Take him to the flagship. I will deal with him myself." As he was marched through the colossal warship Doombringer, a fortress of 20 kilometers armed with planet killers, Elias whistled casually. The guards fumed while he critiqued their decor, suggesting they add plants or play jazz music. Even the prisoners in the detention block stared at him in disbelief. Who dared mock the Supreme One and live? And yet Elias Vance did. With every joke, with every irreverent comment, he chipped away at the carefully cultivated aura of fear that Zalora had built her empire upon. Aboard the Doombringer, Zalora's throne chamber glowed with the soft pulse of violet fire. The walls themselves seemed alive, a living fusion of machinery and flesh that hummed with power. Here, every prisoner who had ever stood before her had broken. Some instantly, others after hours of screams. Fear was the blade she wielded best. But Elias Vance was different. Dragged in chains, he still carried himself like an uninvited guest at a dinner party. His gaze flicked to the towering war banners, the grotesque trophies of conquest, the sharp obsidian throne at the center of the hall. "Nice place," he remarked. "Though, if I'm being honest, it could use a minibar." The guards snarled, but Zalora silenced them with a gesture. She leaned forward, her crimson eyes burning. "You joke because you are afraid. Humor is a shield." Elias met her gaze directly, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Or maybe I just think you take yourself way too seriously." That simple defiance unsettled her. She had interrogated generals, prophets, even monarchs who had held billions under their sway. None had looked at her this way, like she was not a goddess of war, but just another person to argue with. She tested him. "Do you not understand your position? You are a prisoner. You are at my mercy." "Lady," Elias replied calmly, Everyone's at someone's mercy. Doesn't mean you've got to grovel about it. The chamber fell silent. Even her generals, hardened veterans of 100 campaigns, shifted uneasily. This was not bravado, they sensed he truly believed his words. Zalora studied him with curiosity that grew sharper with every exchange. Do you not fear death? Elias shrugged. Death happens, but fear? That's optional. I'd rather spend my time living than wasting it trembling. The response struck her harder than any blade. For centuries, she had built her dominion on terror. Fear was her most loyal ally, the currency of her empire. Yet here was this human, unarmed and shackled, dismissing fear as if it were beneath him. She tried again. Your resistance is meaningless. One man cannot stand against an empire. Elias grinned faintly. Funny thing about empires, they all look permanent. Until they're not. The chamber vibrated as her fury flared. She should have crushed him, obliterated him for his insolence. Yet she didn't. Deep within her, fascination stirred. His defiance was more than arrogance. It was conviction. When the guards dragged him toward the detention cells, Elias tossed one final comment over his shoulder. Don't stay up too late thinking about me. Supreme One. Beauty sleep's important. To everyone's shock, Zalora did not kill him on the spot. Instead, she watched him go, her thoughts restless. For the first time in memory, a prisoner had not broken under her gaze. Instead, she felt unsettled. That night, while the Doombringer drifted silently above the ruined world, Zalora sat upon her throne, replaying the encounter in her mind. The human's words echoed like a riddle she could not solve. Fear is optional. The Doombringer's detention level was a cavern of shadows and steel, designed to sap the spirit of anyone confined within. Shackled prisoners usually whispered prayers or wept quietly, but Elias Vance leaned casually against the wall of his cell, humming an off-key tune. The guards glared at him, baffled. Every sneer, every show of strength they tried bounced off him like pebbles against a mountain. Word spread quickly among the crew, of the human who would not kneel, who spoke to the Supreme Warlord as though she were just another officer. Soldiers passed his cell out of curiosity, expecting to see desperation. Instead, they found jokes, smirks, and eyes that held no trace of fear. Zalora heard the rumors. First, she dismissed them, but the whispers gnawed at her until, finally, she summoned him again. The guards dragged Elias into the throne chamber once more. This time, Zalora did not thunder with threats. Instead, she studied him carefully, her voice measured. Why do you resist fear, Captain Vance? Every being knows it. Every empire is built upon it. Elias scratched at his scruffy jaw, pretending to think. Sure, fear's useful. Keeps you from petting angry bears or juggling chainsaws. But live your life ruled by it. He shook his head. That's no life at all. Her crimson eyes narrowed. So you claim fear has no hold on you? Oh, I get afraid, Elias admitted with a shrug. But here's the trick. I don't stay afraid. Fear shows up, does its thing, and then I tell it to get lost. Can't let it drive the car. The warlords in attendance stared at him as if he had spoken nonsense. But Zalora's mind churned. No one had ever described fear so plainly, so dismissively. For her, fear had been the iron law of existence, the hammer that shaped all living things. And yet this human spoke as if fear was no more than an annoying guest. You mock me with this philosophy, she accused, though her tone lacked its usual bite. No, Elias said softly, and for the first time his humor faded. I respect you enough to tell the truth. You scare the galaxy. But me? I've seen worse. Zalora's pulse quickened. Worse than me? He nodded, eyes distant for a moment. Try standing on a collapsing station, atmosphere venting, while your friends scream in the fire. Try watching people you love go down fighting, knowing you can't save them. That's fear. You learn quick what you can control and what you can't. For the first time in centuries, Zalora had no ready reply. His words cut through the armor of her certainty. She had always believed herself the embodiment of terror. But Elias spoke of pain and loss she could scarcely imagine. And somehow it hadn't broken him. It had forged him. Her guards awaited an order to silence him, to destroy him. Instead, she dismissed them. She wanted him alone. When the doors closed, Zalora leaned forward, her voice low. "Tell me, human. If not fear, then what drives you?" Elias smiled faintly. "Hope, and maybe a little spite." The throne chamber was silent now, save for the faint hum of the Doombringer's engines. Elias stood with his hands bound, yet it was Zalora who felt strangely exposed. His words lingered in her mind, hope and spite. Such simple things, yet delivered with the weight of lived truth. "Hope?" she repeated, tasting the word as though it were foreign. For her people, fear had always been the foundation of power. Hope was weakness, the fantasy of the defeated. "And spite?" she asked, curious despite herself. Elias grinned. "Oh, spite's underrated. When life knocks you down, spite's what gets you back up. You fight harder, not because you think you'll win, but because you refuse to let someone else write your ending." Zalora leaned back slowly, her armor creaking. His defiance was unlike anything she had known. Every other race had folded before her without question. But this man, this single human, had faced the ruin of his world, the loss of everything he knew, and yet he refused to bend. "You are dangerous," she whispered. Elias tilted his head. "Because I won't grovel?" "No," she replied, almost reluctantly. "Because you are free. No chain I forge can bind your spirit." For a moment, the great supreme warlord, conqueror of 1,000 systems, felt something alien herself, breathless awe. She had believed fear to be the greatest force in the galaxy, but this human stood here proving otherwise. Her generals, sensing her hesitation, urged caution. "Supreme One, he defies you openly. Let us make an example of him." But Zalora silenced them with a glance. She could crush him with a thought, obliterate his body until nothing remained. Yet some instinct screamed that doing so would not kill what truly made him dangerous. His unshakable will would linger, haunting her long after his ashes scattered. Instead, she dismissed the guards again. Alone with Elias, her voice dropped to a softer tone than she had used in centuries. "Tell me, human, what is it you fear if not me?" Elias met her gaze without hesitation. "Wasting my time, letting fear decide who I am. That's worse than death." Her chest tightened at the simplicity of the answer. She, who had commanded billions to cower, found herself questioning her own foundation. Was her dominion truly strong, or was it only fragile control sustained by terror? She realized then that Elias Vance had done the unthinkable. He had shifted the balance of power not with armies, not with weapons, but with words, with defiance, with an outlook that refused to make fear the center of existence. As he was led away once more, Elias tossed her a final grin. "Don't worry, Supreme One. You'll figure it out. Everyone does eventually." And when the chamber doors closed, Zalora, Supreme Warlord, Terror of the Stars, sat unmoving, his words echoing in her mind. For the first time in centuries, she was not the one leaving others breathless. She was the one struggling to breathe.